What's cracking, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. As always, I'm Jack Bushman, joined by Ross Baran. For those who are tuning in right now on X, make sure you jump on over to the YouTube feed so you can go in, throw us a like. Thank you very much. You can also jump in the comment section. Let us know your thoughts on Robert MacIntyre's win last week at the RBC Canadian Open. Another splendid event, I thought, fully up in Canada. Hamilton Golf and Country Club was excellent. And also the picks that you're going to be tailing this week for the Memorial Tournament 2024 at Jack's Place, one of my favorite tournaments of the entire year. Last but certainly not least, make sure you're following us over on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you may be listening to your podcast. So that way, if you're not able to catch us live, you're still able to tune into all of the latest episodes. Ross, as I mentioned off the top, another pretty spectacular week up in Canada. Robert MacIntyre, the Scot, finally comes through and gets his first PGA Tour victory. A real cool moment seeing his dad on the bag as well. But before we get into that, brother, how you doing on this Tuesday night?
I'm exhausted this week, but yesterday was golf's longest day. We had an exciting weekend for the PGA Tour. The Canadian Open always showing out as it does, which I think we'll get a little deeper into maybe the future of the tournament moving forward. But overall, good start to the week. Feeling a little tired, but we're on to the Memorial.
Maybe it's a little fitting that both of us are a little bit exhausted jumping on the show here, because I know there's a lot of exhausted golfers participating in the longest day in golf yesterday, figuring out the final qualifying spots for this year's U.S. Open, which of course is the tournament after this one. It is an unbelievable stretch of golf right now, Ross. The Memorial this week, the U.S. Open the week after, then the Travelers. You get two signature events with a major championship sandwiched in between. But quite honestly, I think the stretch of unbelievable golf this year and the past handful of years that we've seen this tournament, I know it didn't go on for 2 years there because of COVID and all the issues with that stuff, but it really feels like the Canadian Open, Ross, has become a staple event of the PGA Tour schedule. It's one of the best events, I think, of the summer, and it was a smashing success again here this week altogether, and a fitting and deserving champion. Robert MacIntyre, man, finally breaks through for that first PGA Tour win. We had known about his talents from overseas and on the DP World Tour, being a very young and promising player. He also made his first appearance at the Ryder Cup and got the best of Wyndham Clark in the Sunday singles. A very talented player that we've seen have some close calls over the years. Maybe the most notable was at the Scottish Open last year, where he hit an unbelievable shot into 18. It looked like he had done enough to get the win, but Rory McIlroy outdid him a little bit with an even better shot on that final hole to secure his victory there. But it did feel like only a matter of time with the skill set that Robert MacIntyre possesses, and it couldn't have been a cooler first win for him with his dad on the bag the entire way. He talked about how he's been a little bit homesick, being this is the first time that he's, being a full-time PGA Tour member and away from home consistently. So what does he do? Goes and brings his dad over. He jumps on the bag for him. He's one for one. He said his dad isn't going to be sticking around to caddy for him in the future, but might have to reconsider, even though the things went well this week. I thought it was an awesome moment, Ross. Really fun to watch Robert MacIntyre really sack up and handle a lot of adversity in that final round. I mean, it wasn't flawless golf that got him through the finish line, but he certainly did enough, had a really good stretch late on Saturday that gave him that 4-shot cushion going into Sunday, but he still had to go out and earn it there on that final day. Ross, your thoughts on Robert MacIntyre's victory?
Well, I mean, Robert MacIntyre completely deserving. I mean, his dad on the bag, that's the fourth caddy of the year for him so far. The only other person that's had 4 caddies was CT Pan at this in the same exact tournament over the weekend, with Fluff going down for him. But honestly, Robert MacIntyre, we've known for a very long time, is an extremely talented golfer. Just one of those things is the mental game seem to have a little bit of struggle transitioning from the overseas, which he's openly admitted in the past that the differences between DP World Tour and playing on the PGA Tour is drastically different, even including um, he was going through his experiences of even playing partners that DP World Tour is extremely friendly. Like every single night, the guys are going out to dinner together after rounds at restaurants, different countries, everything. And then here, it's really every man for himself. You got people finishing 18 and going to the range. Other guys just going straight back to the hotel. Everyone just kind of keep their head down and on to the next day. And he's just not that type of person. He's a very lively, outgoing person. And you could understand the loneliness, like making that transition over time, that it is different. So what do? We call pops in, say, I'm not playing great. I need to make a change. And what better way than to have your mentor on the bag for you? And really the only other person to tell the PGA Tour, fuck off and get that drone out of here.
Oh my God, dude. Drone Gate was absolutely hilarious there for a couple hours early on in that round. What were your kind of thoughts about that matter? Because I thought that the broadcast was being a little bit too harsh on him in terms of like, Bobby, you're going to be a stud player. You're going to have to deal with these things. And I'm sure that's true. But at the same point in time, and I guess it's tough to say because it's not like we were there and we don't know exactly how close the drone was. But like, if it was too close, I think the guy has a gripe. My only one like cringe part of it was when you heard Bobby Mack say, like, I know I'm not American or Canadian, but like you got to back off. And it's like, I don't think they're gonna have the drone on you because they're trying to make you lose, Robert. Like, I don't think that was necessarily the case. And I thought it was clear that he was a little bit on edge and dealing with his emotions and just being in that stressful situation. But what a wild set of circumstances there. Drone Gate at the Canadian Open this year, Ross.
I was just laughing, like you could see him getting flustered.
Oh yeah.
And then the best part is at one point you just watch his dad turn around and look at the official, and his dad just goes like, I already fucking told you twice.
Dude, that was the best part too. He was like, I'm gonna give him, you heard Robert say, I'm gonna give him one more time before I absolutely lose my mind. And it was almost like, I kind of want to see you lose your mind here and go full like Happy Gilmore trying to whack the drone out of midair with his driver or something.
Yeah, no, the best was Papa Mac. Just as Robert's trying to like pull it all together, you could like watch his dad in the background, like staring through the official, like, we're not gonna do anything. Like, I've already warned you twice about like, get it out of here.
And I think it's only, and I don't mean this in like a bad way, but when you hear that in like a Scottish accent, it only like added like fuel to the fire. It was just a super funny and weird situation going on at Hamilton Golf and Country Club. But yeah, super cool to see Robert be able to pull through. Man, he had some big time shots there down the stretch. Unfortunately for me, I bet Victor Perez at a nice 40-1 number early on Saturday morning. I think he was like 3 off of the lead. He was out there earlier than most of the leaders, obviously, on Saturday. Had it going good. And I'm like, I'll take a chance here. And it actually looked pretty promising until Bobby Mack, I think, shot 5 under over his last 4 holes to really give himself that cushion going into Sunday. But Vic Perez gave me a cool, fist pump moment with a big birdie putt there on 18. But Robert MacIntyre, like 2 minutes after that, came up clutch and responded to those back-to-back bogeys by sticking one close and making another birdie to get it back to minus 16. That basically put it out of reach. Ben Griffin did make a little bit of a charge late, and I told you before we recorded, Ross, he's probably kicking himself a little bit because he had so many birdie putts all day long, and the putter just went cold until he made that long one on 16. He made the birdie on 17. But Robert MacIntyre standing up there on the 18th and throwing a dart in there to all but secure his victory, showing his stones. It was really impressive stuff, man. And then the emotional interview with Amanda Balionis afterwards alongside his dad, saying he's absolutely speechless. It was absolutely awesome. Last thing I want to ask you, though, about Robert MacIntyre, though, Ross, he withdrew from the Memorial this week. A little bit of a questionable decision, I thought, considering it could have been an opportunity to kind of snowball some good momentum going into the major championship the week after at Pinehurst. But at the same point in time, Bobby Mack, a good Scottish lad, he's going back to the motherland, if you will, and he's going to go and properly celebrate with his family. Said his dad might go on a little bit of a bender. Wouldn't be surprised if now that Robert's withdrawn, he's going to do the same as well. But what were your thoughts on his decision to WD from the Memorial this week?
Honestly, with Robert MacIntyre and his whole attitude, the way that this portrait has been painted since the Ryder Cup, everything, what we know about him, I expected this, being true to his word, that it's your first big one. You got it. He said he was going home. He was gonna celebrate. He was gonna ride this one out. Where true to his word, first thing the next morning, hey, I'm out. I'm not gonna play in it. I'm going home. I'm gonna ride this wave. And honestly, for everything, all the tolls and stress he talked about prior about being like homesick, everything, probably great for him that he got the win, go home, celebrate, come back, kick some ass. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Just ride that momentum where, Memorial guaranteed money, like always helpful, guaranteed points, always helpful. But at the same time, this is the first of what is probably going to be several for Robert MacIntyre. Go celebrate it. You're going to have your shot down the road.
Yeah, vibes are still going to be high coming out of the MacIntyre camp going into Pinehurst, and the beer count is going to be high as well. I saw some pictures posted on social media yesterday of Robert with a couple of brewhas in hand, so it looks like he's already on his way to a proper celebration. Looking forward to seeing him back soon in a couple of weeks at Pinehurst for the U.S. Open. Before we kind of get into the Canadian Open as a whole, a splendid event as we talked about earlier, I thought it was nice to see Rory and Tom Kim have that nice charge on Sunday playing together. They both had some good vibes going on during the weekend. And for Tom Kim, I thought he shared a pretty cool and insightful interview following his round, talking about just how difficult it's been adapting to the PGA Tour and figuring out these courses and playing to the best of his abilities week in and week out. He's still finding the balances for that. And he mentioned that he was, thinking about possibly skipping out on the Canadian Open because he's in the midst of a huge stretch of golf, but said he was super happy that he came here. He posted green numbers in all four major categories, which is very good for him, giving him some positive vibes going into the U.S. Open as well. And same for Rory. I mean, he played pretty outstanding in this tournament other than Friday when he just clearly didn't have it. But the three other rounds, I know kind of anything less than a victory for Rory at the Canadian Open seems a little bit underwhelming, but I still thought it was a very solid tournament for him and continuing to generate that good momentum and continues to show that he is playing his he generally plays his best golf in bunches. And I think even though it wasn't a win, Ross, another good finish for Rory has to have his hopes high going into two big weeks here in a row with the Memorial and the US Open.
Absolutely. And I don't understand what the narrative is with Tom Kim, where Tom Kim is beyond talented. And it's no doubt the game is there. But everyone, it seems like when he struggles, they seem to like zone in on so much promise, but such little progress. Everything. It's like Tom Kim has been on the tour for several years already. Tom Kim's like fucking 24. Like, what are we talking about? He's got an entire career ahead of him. He's already got PGA success. He's already got wins. And then like when he goes in these peaks and valleys, it's like he gets completely written off of like, oh, such promise and just no progress, no results. And it's like he's beyond young.
He's still 21 years old. He's 21 years old and a three-time PGA Tour winner. There are a lot of talent. He has more wins than Will Zalatoris, okay? And these are people, this is a guy that everyone's throwing money at every major championship possible. Tom Kim's got triple the wins that Willie Z does, and he's 21 years old. He's got the three more wins than Cameron Young does.
And see, and I was trying to play it safe and guess like 24, thinking like maybe 23. We're
a baby.
21, and we're gonna have these weekly judgments of so much promise. Yeah, guess what? I'm gonna take the upside and the ceiling on Tom Kim moving forward, and always take the upside and ceiling on Tom Kim moving forward.
And guess what? Unless you're literally the one of 100,000s, unless you're a Tiger Woods or a Scotty Scheffler, even Scotty had to go through that learning curve to really get over that hump and get into the winner's circle. Like, success is not linear on the PGA Tour. You're going to go through all sorts of struggles. And quite honestly, we'll get there in a little bit. I think we could see Ludwig Oberg getting into that like first kind of, I don't want to say struggle because his struggles are like T21s. They're not really struggling, but like we're getting that kind of like learning curve. You see these guys, they're so young and they almost like don't even know any better. They come out on the tour and they find all this success, but it's impossible to expect to do that week in and week out. And Tom Kim is still going through that maturation process right in front of our eyes. And I expect him to be playing some really good golf here at the end of this season, kind of similarly to what he did last year. It took him a little while to heat up, but I think better days are coming for Tom Kim here later on in the season. I think we could see him contending in some tournaments before the Tour Championship to close this thing out in September, and wouldn't be surprised to see Rory McIlroy giving it a run in these next couple of weeks with these big events coming up. But Ross, as a whole, the Canadian Open has just been awesome these last couple of years. The atmosphere has been spectacular. The Canadian fans continue to show out. It really has become one of the better midsummer events of the season. And you actually were talking to me before we jumped on air here about a little idea that was kind of thrown around, and I didn't hate it. You want to go and bring that out?
So Dan Rappaport just the other day went down kind of a rabbit hole of, RBC sponsors two of the biggest events on the tour currently, with the RBC Heritage the week after the Masters and RBC Canadian Open. And Dan went out and kind of just laid the framework of, the RBC Heritage every single year is a signature event, but it happens to be the week after the Masters, when a lot of guys tend to skip. They tend to take just the week off in general and get that mental reset following the first major of the year. And the location for the event at Harbor Town is very lax. We're talking a seaside coastal town. Just the fans, all the vibes of that tournament are way more relaxed than a signature event. And not saying it's a bad event, it's just the vibes there. Why not spin it and reverse it and make it that the Canadian Open, where Canada goes full out, full throttle, this is their event, and make that the signature event, and give the PGA Tour a signature event outside outside the United States.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea. Why not give Canada the best of the best? Because they're already showing out for the handful of mostly RBC ambassadors that go up there to play, and the handful of Canadians that are in the tournament, but they show love, they show support, they get rowdy, and that's really all you can ask for a crowd on the weekend of a golf tournament. They're going to show up and they're going to go out there and they're going to do their thing. I really do like the rink idea. Again, I think it was blown a little bit out of proportion by the broadcast, but that's a whole different problem. Like, I love the signature whole idea. I love getting all the Canadian fans there rowdy and banging on the boards. As someone who is a fellow hockey nut, I can definitely appreciate that aspect of it. So I really enjoy this event. The one thing I will say about that is you're going to have to move some dates around. And what's weird this year, Ross, is the Memorial's this week, and obviously Memorial Day has come and gone. I don't know if that was because the best players said, hey, we want to play two signature events, one before, one after the major, so we can all be together going through this swing. But historically, the RBC Canadian Open has been the week before the US Open. So if you want to make it a signature event, I feel like they're not going to put the Canadian Open over Jack's Place. Like, the Memorial is going to hold like weight over the RBC Canadian Open. So there might be some like difficulties in moving it around, but I will say, like, in the sake of making your event better, I think you would think that the event and the corporate sponsors running it, we'll get to that conversation in a second here too, would be willing to make something work in order to get the best there, to draw even more enticement and attractiveness around the tournament. So I absolutely think it's a feasible task. I think it would be good for Golf Canada, good for the PGA Tour, good for all the fans involved and the players in that event. I absolutely like that idea, while also noting there are some logistical difficulties to it. But hey, the PGA Tour has the power to make it happen. I would absolutely love to see it, though, Ross. I think it's a really good idea.
I just feel like multiple signature events leading to a major strikes differently than what we have now, where it's, oh, we're going to play a major and the next week we're going to play a signature event in Harbortown.
And also, one thing I should bring up is when these designated signature whatever events, they're signature events now, they could be called something different next year. They were called elevated events last year. Um, when they first announced this, they said that they were going to be moving it around at some different spots, and I think that only makes sense, right? Like you want to, sure, you have your mainstays like the Memorial, that's always going to be a signature event. Arnold Palmer Invitational, that's always going to be a signature event, but the Travelers doesn't have to be a signature event every year. Like I like the Travelers being a signature event maybe every other year, or like you said, we could mix in a Canadian Open there, or you could make the 3M Open a signature event for 1 year to attract more golfers and more fans to that tournament. I think it could be the best of both worlds for everyone while still having the mainstays be the primary tournaments. You know what I mean?
I feel like you can have, where if we're going 10 signature events, you could split that. There is 5 concrete that every single year this is a signature event. Like if we're including the Memorial, we're including the Players, we can include Amex, like to kick off the year. Like these are guaranteed every single year. This is going to be a signature event for the history of this event, everything. And then I have 5 rotating, where it rotates between 2 or 3 courses every single year. Every third year, the RBC Heritage is a signature event, and then the next year it's the RBC Canadian Open is a signature event, and so on. And they continue to rotate through. And like you said, later in the summer, the 3M is the late summer signature event, one of the last big events for people to get the FedEx Cup points leading into the FedEx Cup playoffs, where you just constantly rotate these things, where there's 4 or 5, I think, that need to be concrete. This needs to be a signature event every single year. But I feel like there's another 5 that you can rotate with another event in and out yearly and say, hey, in odd years, you're a signature event, and even years, you're a signature event, and flip flop, just like Ryder Cup style.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen Pebble Beach not be a signature event and then go to a signature event. Like there's a lot of runway and a lot of possibilities to make this happen. It's just kind of if they choose to, and I really hope they do, because Canadian Open has been spectacular to the PGA Tour. We've gotten some great memories. Nick Taylor obviously is going to be one that goes down in history. I thought it was super cool to see that they also implemented his silhouette into the logo from when he dropped the putter after making that 72-foot eagle putt, which will forever now be scarred in my memory even longer, because of course I had Tommy Fleetwood in that. So as long as I see the Canadian Open logo, I'm going to be thinking about Tommy making that par on the 499-yard 18th for eternity. But I did want to give one more shout out to Hamilton Golf and Country Club, Ross, because I thought the course was excellent, especially for being one of the shorter courses, as we broke down when previewing this event last week, that the PGA Tour players had faced this year. Like, we were probably on track to get a winning score of -12 or -13 had the rain not come down before Sunday and made that course a little bit soft. And even then, Bobby Mack won this thing at 16 under. And I think with how modern technology is nowadays, I think that for that 13 to 17 under pocket is generally what most of us fans want to see. I think that's usually the fair enough challenge. And hey, we got that out of Oakdale the year prior, and I know there were some concerns that course might have been too easy for PGA Tour players. The winning score was -17 last year. The winning score was -16 this year. A great challenge by both of these courses. Very well done, very well restored, as we also talked about last week. And I think a good reminder of how you can still make these courses challenging to the PGA Tour players when the conditions are dry and baked out. You only have 2 par 5s out there. You have a lot of thick and thick and what's the word? Penal rough. If you miss the fairways, it's going to make it dead. And you got small green complexes to make small targets out there. I thought Hamilton GNC played excellent, Ross.
Completely agree, and it's another one of those things that we talked about that's big for the PGA. Is every single tournament this year seems like they're trying to lengthen the course, play the bombers. This is again another example of you don't have to lengthen the course, and it can still be challenging, and you can make it challenging for you just need to hit the right fucking shot here. And you can make a run at the tournament. I mean, look at what the leaderboard looks like on the weekend. There was a perfect mix of people that could bomb the ball, and there was a perfect mix of shot shapers, people that can just hit a good shot with their irons and stick it in nice and tight because they didn't go very long off the tee.
Yeah, it was really well done. Really well done. Hopefully, the Canadian Open will be back at Hamilton GNC. Last but certainly not least, almost forgot to mention this before we moved off of the Canadian Open. Ross, there have been rumblings recently that, this might have been the final year of RBC as the title sponsor for the Canadian Open. And they have been outspoken about kind of their, I don't want to call it ill will, but their disagreements with how the PGA Tour has kind of gone about their business and everything with LIV. And I mean, we've seen countless tournament sponsors kind of be picked off here over the last year or so. Wells Fargo is going to be leaving. Obviously, the Honda was changed to the Cognizant this year. It would be pretty sad to see RBC leave as the tournament sponsor for this event, right, Ross?
Well, I think, first of all, respect to RBC because they had their CEO front and center on the Friday night and the Saturday morning coverage with the coverage teams sitting there front and center talking about how much RBC loves the tour and these events. And I was like, this is a 100% power play on your guys' part, that you're going to go out there and speak nice about the PGA Tour and say that you're going to make us a little deal moving forward because we came and said that we like you.
Greasing those pockets up, baby, because truth of the matter is, I was actually hearing some fellow Canadians talk about this on a golf podcast that I listened to. There aren't that many sponsors in Canada that are truly capable of taking on like this task of having the title sponsorship and being able to fund it for a tournament for the Canadian Open and also the RBC Heritage, obviously the week after the Masters. So I think it's pretty clear that the RBC wants to remain with the PGA Tour, but I think it's also going to take a little bit more money to bring them back. As someone who has kind of been a long time partner along with them, it's kind of like, hey, we see everybody dropping like flies. We're willing to stay with you, but you got to make the price right here, I think. Come on, we've been loyal to you. You be loyal to us now. It's kind of how I broke it down.
There's been a bunch of companies that have come out and they stated why they've pulled out of this thing moving forward. And it's, you're a sponsor for so long and you're asked yearly routinely for X amount of dollars to fund and schedule said tournament. And then you get hit with a number that's like a 60% increase compared to last year, to where companies like Wells Fargo went and told the PGA Tour, go fuck yourself. We're not doing that. This is our last year.
Yeah.
Like we'll pay it this year. We're not paying next year's bill.
We'll see what winds up happening there, but I think it would be a pretty detrimental loss for the PGA Tour to lose a partner like RBC that continuously throws on great events up there. They always put on great atmospheres and great venues that allow the fans to pile in as much as they do and get good spots. So, I think it would be a very big loss for the PGA Tour, Ross. But moving on here, you got any final thoughts? Sorry, buddy. Didn't mean to cut you off.
I was going to say it's just the fact that RBC sponsors two of the biggest tournaments on the schedule. Right. And they're one of the only sponsors that picks up multiple checks a year for the tour. Exactly. So your pockets aren't getting hit once. It's your pockets are getting cleaned out twice on if RBC decides no moving forward.
Yeah, good point you bring up there. But we do have some other things that we definitely need to get into here on the show. Next up is the longest day in golf was yesterday, Ross. The final qualifying for this year's U.S. Open at Pinehurst. We had a bunch of notable players trying to get their way into the tournament. None probably more notable, though, than Adam Scott, who's played in every major championship since 2001. Had to go out there and try to qualify, and man, he put his best foot forward, chipped in on the final hole, the post number. It looked like it was going to be enough until some Aussie on Aussie crime knocked him out. Cam Davis makes a huge putt to qualify for the U.S. Open and knocks Adam Scott out. He is still the first alternate, but man, that was a little bit of a low blow to see yesterday, Ross.
My heart hurt for Adam Scott, not just because I like Adam Scott, but I wanted that narrative of the reverse Taylor Gooch thing so bad of, oh, Taylor's not even going to try. And then you got Adam Scott, who potentially could still make it into the field on points alone with his performance. But Adam Scott being like, oh, I'm too close. I'm going to go play this thing. I wanted him to play into it so bad just for that lone narrative because, it would have made my day. But he went out there. He fought, like you said, Aussie on Aussie crime. And good God, it was almost a homicide for just how heartbreaking it was to fall that way. But, the cool thing about the U.S. Open is the longest day in golf, and the fact that anyone who is anybody can make it into this tournament. And I think we saw several great stories from yesterday, including the 29-year-old science teacher in Colorado that plays scratch golf here and there when he can, qualified for the U.S. Open yesterday.
Yeah, no, it's definitely one of the most unique and I think coolest parts of the US Open is truly anyone can go out there and just earn their spot. It's, one day if you got your best stuff, it's kind of almost like an any given Sunday type of vibes. Like if you have it that day, you could get your way into this tournament. So there's always a couple of cool names and a couple of cool stories that find their way in. Frankie Sappin was actually someone that we talked about last week, Ross, as Harry Higgs, who, shout out to Harry, also managed to keep the ball rolling here and got himself into the U.S. Open, which you love to see. But Frankie Sappin, who lost to Harry Higgs in a playoff a couple of weeks ago, went out there and dominated and won the North Carolina qualifier outright. That was super cool. Willie Mack Tim Whiting got his way in, continuing to play good golf. Someone we've shout out a couple of times here on the show. Willie Mack.
Congrats to Tim Whiting, not only winning his qualifier, but Tim Whiting was officially gifted his PGA Tour card from the Korn Ferry Tour today for his 2 wins on the Korn Ferry Tour this year. On top of his performance in the U.S. Open qualifier was enough. Congrats, Tim Whiting, the newest member of the PGA Tour for 2025.
Yeah, big time stuff out of Tim Whiting, playing great golf on the Korn Ferry Tour all year long. He qualified out of Maryland. Luke Clanton, amateur out of Florida State. Some of the folks who are tuned into the YouTube golf scene might be familiar with that name, but we also got to see Mark Hubbard qualify. Aaron Rye, Davis Thompson had an excellent round out there. Matt Kuchar, Daniel Berger made it as well. Sam Bennett, Webb Simpson, who's kind of been the butt end of the joke on the sponsor exemptions into the big events. He's not in the Memorial this week, but actually has been playing some good golf. He was in the mix on Sunday at the Charles Schwab Challenge when I was in attendance a couple of weeks ago. So cool to see him continuing to play well after a few just real brutal years there for Webb. Justin Lauer made it. He's been playing really good golf all year long. Seamus Power has started to show some signs of life. Brendan Todd made it as well. Bo Hostler, love to see Big Bo always make it. So a lot of guys who have been playing some good golf.
Shout out Matt Kuchar winning in Jupiter outright.
Yeah, that's super awesome. S.H. Kim got in. Francesco Molinari played his way in. Who else? Mac MacInyre, who's been playing great.
My favorite is, did you go through any of the tournaments and see the first round withdrawals?
No, I did not.
Just some of the names. If you go through, like, it's people like our boy Joel Damon, Mav McNeely, where they get like 4 holes in and they're 4 over and they're like, fuck it, I'm done.
They're like, it's not my year. It's just not happening. That's
It
hilarious.
just all their cars. There was like 9 qualifiers yesterday, and you can scroll. The USGA has all of them up, and you can scroll through who was entered in the tournament, and you can see it'll say like WD4, and it'll show like what hole they were just like, ain't fucking happening. I'm done.
That's hilarious. Shout out to Jim Herman for making it as well. Good to see him. Shout out to Isaiah Salinda. I don't know if many people are familiar with him, but as an amateur at the Shriners Children's Open that I was at in the fall, he was contending down the stretch on Sunday and I believe came T3. So good to see him get into the US Open. How about this name here, Ross? I've never heard of this guy, but Chris Petefish is one of the better golf names I've ever heard. But yeah, congratulations to everyone who qualified into this year's U.S. Open. A couple of big names that didn't make it, though, Ross. Maybe outside of Adam Scott, maybe even ahead of Adam Scott. The circumstances make it heightened for Adam Scott, considering it's been since 2001 since he's missed one of these bad boys. But Joaquin Niemann, he's going to be missing his first major since the 2020 Masters as he fell just 1 stroke short of qualifying. Harold Varner, Mark Leishman, Anirban Lahiri, Graham McDowell, and Cameron Tringali all missed the cut from Live Golf as well, while Dean Burmeister and David Puig were the only 2 to qualify.
Didn't Puig win his event, though? I thought he won or finished second.
Let me scroll here.
I believe his performance was pretty impressive.
He won.
Yeah.
Won the California qualifier. Also, I saw someone post, it was Pat Mayo from the Pat Mayo Experience posted that if you had the financial means to travel and were weighing your best options to get into the U.S. Open, out of all the qualifiers, Oregon was definitely the one to go to. Joey... This is a last name. There's no vowels in this last name. VRZCH. Not going to try to pronounce that. And Colin
PGA
Prater.
Tour America star.
Really?
Yeah.
Shout out to him. Him and Colin Prater, an amateur out of Oregon, made it in those 2 spots.
He was one of the last rounds I was able to catch yesterday. There were several guys all sitting at like 2 and 3 under right on the cut line, and he was leading still to play. And on 18, he had like 180 yards out, and he stuck it to like 1.5 foot.
Oh, good for that guy.
And they're like, this is a major shot of his career to get into a major. Let's see and we can't afford any mess ups. The leaderboard is so tight, holding a 1-shot lead to fall into a tie. And like, he literally stuck it to like 1.5 foot from like 80 yards out. And they're like, oh, never mind. Congratulations.
Oh, he's gonna make it. Good for him. But it did seem like there was a little bit of recognition from the USGA that I don't know how many live guys didn't qualify for this tournament made them realize this, or this was something that they had realized already. But it sounds like they're going to be making leeway, or at least more opportunity for live golfers to qualify for the U.S. Open in the future, which I think if you call it, the best field in golf, the best tournament in the United States, I think it's only kind of right to do that. Right, Ross?
I mean, it fits the narrative of what we're all hoping for. I don't know exactly how you framework that moving forward. Yeah. I don't know if it's just less exemptions for the main field. If you're taking those away and you're offering more qualifying spots and opportunities, if not even a qualifying tournament specifically set for other tours. Because some of the guys that you read off are guys that play on PGA Tour of like Latin America, and the Australasia Tour. Like, a lot of those guys are in these tournaments. So I don't know if you just make another alternate 10th event that has 4 or 5 spots, and it's specifically for, this event is for all the professionals on other tours.
Yeah, I think that would make sense. Just given, look, you want to give those fair and equal opportunities to everybody, right? And that's what makes golf in the U.S. Open so special. But at the same point in time, if you're punishing a player like a Joaquin Niemann, who, based on his talents and you can question his results on Live, what they really mean. He's still won over there a handful of times and has been one of the most dominant players on that tour. You're almost doing him personally, and while it is a little bit of a rare case, you're still doing him a little bit of a disservice when we know he's more than capable of contending in a tournament like this when he's at his best stuff, when he has, the same opportunity as anyone else. And things can go wrong in golf. That's just the game. And I recognize that's part of the beauty in the US Open qualifier as well. But there are certain tours out there that are higher pedigrees where I think that needs to be taken into consideration a little bit, that, hey, this player is a little bit more credentialed and qualified than some of these guys. Maybe there should be a little bit of another opportunity or another pathway, even if it is just another spot or two. And quite honestly, when we broke down all those Live guys who didn't qualify, I mean, who could you really make an argument for that we're missing? Like maybe Harold Varner is the second one. So maybe like even one or just two extra spots for a situation like this. Again, I don't know the exact logistics of it, but like I agree that this should probably be an idea moving forward.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because you had someone like Sergio played the qualifying event last month in Texas, and he finished the first alternate, the first one outside the cut.
Right, and Sergio's been playing good golf, man. Like to his credit, like he, out of all the older guys, like I mean, has Bubba ever contended on Live like at all? Like out of the older guys that kind of just went and took their bag to compete on Live, I feel like Sergio is at least like up there, and he's going out of his way to still play in these events. I mean, feel the way that you want about the guy from all these years, but at least he's making that effort. Like you can respect that.
I feel like Bubba is the only one over there that like ultimately admits like, oh, this was a business thing for me. Like I honestly don't care about the golf. Like I like the equity in my team. Like he goes about like developing and training and like maturing young guys on his team. Like he treats it like a minor league farm system. Like
He kind of does.
Where he literally treats it like it's his own business, like as he should, because he has the money invested into it. But he's the one that like treats it like a coach. He doesn't treat it like a player, like, oh, I'm out here to win every week. No, I'm out here to teach these young guys on how to win, so I collect in the long run that I own this team.
I don't know how that's going to work for him, to be quite fair, because Bubba, I hate to break it to you, I just don't know how many Range Goat fans there are out there. But that's a conversation for another day. Bubba is a unique character where I feel like his almost like corny character, and I don't like mean that he's very lighthearted and light spirited, but it can come off as corny sometimes. I almost feel like that's like on par with kind of what Liv is like pushing out a little bit, and he's just kind of like, hey, if this is what you guys are doing, I'm here for it. I'll be your guy. I'll be your spokesperson that's trying to sell these teams and get this money back for your investments. I'll do my best. Feels like he's kind of that guy.
You guys want to take a picture with my jackets?
Yeah, right. How many Range Goat hats have we sold this week, guys? Let me get the numbers. Yeah. But
can we get a goat in a jacket? I want a goat in a jacket.
Let's start ramping up the advertising here, fellas. I can really feel like we're getting this thing going here right now. But yeah, man, good U.S. Open qualifiers, some good drama, some good storylines in the longest day of golf, adding to the intrigue around the U.S. Open next week. Couldn't be more excited to see Pinehurst in action, baby. But that takes us to this week's Memorial Tournament, which is a great prelude into the U.S. Open. Ross, Jack's Place, Muirfield Village, winning this tournament, probably the most prestigious, if that or the Players, the most prestigious non-majors on the PGA Tour. There's just something special about winning at this place. And Jack Nicklaus, I think, has done a phenomenal job with this course over the last handful of years. I thought it was pretty hilarious that after Patrick Cantlay hit 19 under to win this bad boy in 2019, he was like, nope, that ain't happening again. Birdie fests are not allowed here. So then he made the course in 2020 literally like as hard as possible. Jon Rahm won at -5. I think there were only 4 players under par that week. It's been a little bit easier since then. We saw 2 winners at -13, but last year reverted back to being really difficult again when Victor Hovland took down Denny McCarthy in a playoff to get his real kind of breakthrough first big time victory, his first in the continental United States, that kind of sparked that late season run that he went on to win the FedEx Cup. But this is an awesome course, man. It's a long beast, 7,600 yards, par 72. And when Jack remodeled it, he did all the things that we've kind of talked about, Ross, in these like restoration processes that we've seen here recently. He basically went and did the same thing. He, went and relocated sand bunkers to put them in strategic spots off of the tee to take in account for modern technology. And he really just, when he designs these golf courses, he does such a good job because he knows what these players are going to want to be thinking. And every kind of possible out that they would want to take, he gives them something challenging to kind of thwart them away from that idea, whether it be a strategically placed fairway bunker or the 4 to 5 inch fairway rough that we're going to see here this week. He lets the fairways be a little open, but they're very small green complexes, which, when you combine with a very long course, and long rough is what makes it so difficult. You got 13 holes with water hazards on them, long par fours. He even beefed up the par five when he added 150 yard of distance here in 2020, Ross. Most of that went to the par fives to make them more difficult and to enforce more layups to kind of take away some of the birdies. So I think it's going to be a really good test. There has unfortunately been some more rain in the Dublin, Ohio area this year than normal. And it does seem like we're going to get some storms on Wednesday. So I think conditions are going to be a little bit easier than usual on Thursday, but there is a full sub-air system underneath all of these fairways and all of these greens. So, Jack is going to get it back to firm and baked out as soon as possible. So I think come weekend time, it's still going to be an absolute grind. Might be a little bit easier those first 2 days, but it's an excellent venue, and we got an excellent field per usual on tap, Ross. All of the big dogs. The only guys ranked inside the top 30 in the official golf ranking that aren't here are John Rahm and Tyrrell Hatton, who play for Live Golf, obviously. So we got the who's who here at Jack's Place. It's been a great event these last, past couple of centuries. It's been a breakthrough spot for a lot of guys. Tell me about your excitement for this tournament, and then I'll turn it over to you to tell me about who you got on the card this week.
So you hit it right on the head that what makes this tournament great is Jack designed this course with a golfer's mind. And I think the clip that has become famous at this point is Jack and Johnny Miller on the green several years ago with all the undulation, and Johnny Miller sitting there going, I can't make this putt, and Jack going, do you want me to show you how to hit it? It's those things are what make this course unique, that Jack thinks all those things through, where yes, that one time out of 100 someone is going to hit a ball in that spot, but Jack thought through how you sink that putt when you put it there.
Yeah, and just all those little details and those little nuances and those intricacies are really what make this place so special and also so challenging, because I think something that we even alluded to at Valhalla, Ross, was how easy it was around the greens and how easy the bunkers were there. I mean, we saw a ton of chip-ins. We saw a lot of long putts hold, but Jack has strategically made these greens more undulated and more sloped. And when he remodeled these, he actually dug out all 18 green complexes to make them firm and faster. I heard they're running at like an 11 right now, and by the weekend time, they could get up to 13 or 14. So I think they're going to be really firm and fast. And also, these are some of the most difficult green side bunkers to play out of. And again, why did Jack Nicklaus do that, Ross? Because he knows when these guys are where their misses are to these greens, it's to the bunkers, because they're so good at getting up and down out of them. He's made them super deep, which personally I thought could have been great to see at Valhalla. Would have made Xander Schauffele's shot on 18 a little more different. But he makes them so deep that you don't get those sight lines. It just makes it more difficult to get up and down. And those are the exact little nuances that we're talking about that can make or break a golf course, especially in today's day and age with technology being so good and the modern day athlete being so developed. So I personally love this place. It's one of my favorite events of the year. I can't wait for this thing to get underway on Thursday. But Ross, when we're getting into the odds boards here, we got Scotty obviously up top. Rory and Xander now are those two other guys that are in that second tier at the 8 to 9 to 1 number, depending on where you're going. And then it's kind of wide open up for grabs after that. So kind of take me through your thoughts on the betting board this week and the clicks you decided to make here for the Memorial Tournament.
So I'm going to start off with those names you just mentioned at the top of the board. Take those guys, throw them out of here. They're coming.
Yeah.
They're not on my card.
Yeah.
None of them. We're playing the field this week. And with the field, my lowest odds on there, I'm going with the reigning champion, man, because I know it's hard to win tournaments back to back in years and defend. He looks so fucking good at Valhalla that with him bringing back Joe Mayo, with how he played there, he's been away for a couple of weeks to continue to work with Joe Mayo. I can only think Victor Hovland is going to come in here and just try to light that place on fire this week and get the W.
Yeah, and out of those maybe like top 5, top 6 guys at the board, you could throw Colin Morikawa in there, even Justin Thomas or Patrick Cantlay, who are the guys like right after Hovland and Morikawa. I think you could easily make an argument that Victor at that number is the best price of anyone out of that top tier. And one thing that's kind of going under the radar is Vic loves himself a good old repeat. The Hero World Challenge, the OHL at Mayakoba. I know those are obviously two way lower events than the Memorial here this week, but there's something to be said about him feeling comfortable on a certain course. And, breaking through here last year, we've always thought that these types of courses and setups are ideal for a player with the capabilities and strengths of Victor Hovland. So I absolutely understand it. Victor is popular this week for good reason. You referenced getting back with Joe Mayo, the quick dividends that paid at the PGA Championship. I mean, had the putter not gone ice cold on the back nine, he really could have won that thing, and it would have been incredible, the turnaround and the conversations that were being had around Victor Hovland going into the PGA Championship, how different they would have sounded from, that Wednesday leading into the Monday after would have been crazy. So I definitely understand starting things off with Victor.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it right on the head with I got him at 18. Seemed like a very fair number. Obviously, you already know my intentions are usually if it's 16, if it's not 16 or higher, kind of overlook and I'd rather play the field. I like the 18. I felt confident there that was a fair value for someone like Victor, especially in this tournament. Moving a little bit further, I have last week and kind of just hanging around consistently, playing some good golf. This tournament has given us winners in the past that have favored just coming in, playing consistent, and playing a good game. I do have Corey Connors this week at 45 to 1.
Yeah, Corey Connors, a splendid finish to the Canadian Open. If you go look at his approach numbers, they have just been spectacular. Really, his tee to green, and he's quietly been one of the better tee to green players on tour for a couple of years now. And for anyone who's been listening or watching the show for a long time, Corey Connors has been my boy for a long time because of his stat profile. He is so intriguing, and it really feels like he has it going right now. Doesn't have a ton of high-end finishes, but a lot of good, consistent golf being played. And I've always liked Corey Connors at the harder golf tournaments, so I absolutely think it makes sense. And I've seen him as one of the most popular plays this week as well. I think he actually opened up at like 70 or 80 to 1 even.
Yep. And moving down from there, I'm going to double down after last week, also at 45. Played really well. Didn't have the putter going to end the final round. I did hit Sam Burns this week at 45.
I thought you were going to say Tommy. There for a second.
Yeah.
Dude, no, we actually didn't bring up Sam Burns when we were recapping the RBC Canadian Open. He probably could have been right there along with Ben Griffin in terms of like guys who, if the putter just had worked, honestly, the putter didn't even really work for him anything after Thursday, and he was still in the thick of it. And I was kind of having these thoughts about Sam Burns as well, because it feels like he's maybe getting things settled down now that he's had the baby, and there was a tough stretch for him there, but he's been showing some signs of life, and a very electric first round last week. Wasn't able to keep it going through the weekend, but yeah, he has been starting to play some better golf here as of late.
From there, we're going to move on to a former winner of this event who has been playing some very solid, consistent golf. Big fans of him on this show. Respectable number. I do have Billy Ho on the card at 60-1.
Yeah, man. Billy Horschel has been playing really good. Won here a couple of years ago, obviously. Missed the cut last year, but he kind of missed the cut everywhere last year. And dude, I mean, over the last 2 months, there are truly only a handful of players that have been better than Billy Horschel. And I know his win came in an alternate field event, but it's not just the win. He's been putting up a lot of good high-end finishes, and someone who's had a lot of success at some other Jack Nicklaus design courses as well, like a PGA National that hosts the Cognizant Classic. That's always been a good spot for Billy Horschel as well. So I think I personally would have liked a little bit bigger odds, but there's no denying that he's been playing really good golf, and this has always been a really good spot for him.
And that is going to bring me to my final pick. If you notice this week, I went further down the board for a lot of my guys. A lot of my guys fall in that 45 or higher range. I did circle back today, going a little bit higher on the board. Had to take a nice long look and try to find someone in that mid tier, not the low tier, that I liked. And I don't know what it is bringing me to him. It just feels like he's freaking due to come and get one of these events. I did nab Justin Thomas at 29.
Yeah, no, not a bad number. And he's popped up well on this course before, lost in the playoff to Colin Morikawa, playing some really good golf. We've seen it at Quail Hollow and Valhalla coming in a little bit under the radar. It feels like there are some better things coming here soon for Justin Thomas. He's obviously gotten settled in with what's his new caddy's name? Why did I forget it already? Not Bone. He obviously let go of Bones. It was Patrick Cantlay's old caddy, and it's driving me crazy that I can't think of his name right now. Matt Minister. Matt Minister. He's gotten settled in with Matt Minister now. So, yeah, he's been a very popular pick this week as well. You got any others, or was that how you rounded out the card, Ross?
Those are my five, and I settled on the four yesterday fairly quickly. Justin Thomas was kind of the one that I circled back on, and it's just one of those things where you look at the year as a whole so far, and you're kind of disappointed and go not really confident. But then the past couple tournaments, he's played fairly well. Seems like he's on a come up. And I mean, we've watched Justin Thomas go through these peaks and valleys for so long over this past year, where at what point is he due? You know the game, you know the talent is there, and the past successes here at this course with some good finishes, on top of it being a big signature event, it feels like the right atmosphere. If he's going to bust back through, it would be somewhere like here in this tournament.
Yeah, definitely. And the way you kind of just described how things have been going, how he's like starting to turn the corner now, and it's been a little bit underwhelming, even though he got off to a good start, kind of wasn't able to capitalize on that early and faded a little bit. I feel like him and Colin Morikawa have had similar seasons. I feel like Morikawa is a couple weeks ahead of Justin Thomas, though, in terms of like getting back into that contention bubble. And that's where I actually started my card this week, Ross, was Colin Morikawa 16-1, man. Just so many high-end finishes here recently. The ball striking has gotten back to what we expected to be out of Colin Morikawa. He remains a good driver of the golf ball, hits a lot of fairways, doesn't set him up with big misses too many times. He's actually second in distance from edge of fairway this year. So when he does miss, it's not like they're big misses. And quite honestly, his short game uptick has been marvelous, man. The putter has been really good. Around the green has been really good. And I think both of that kind of bodes well for him coming into this weekend. His developments in those areas kind of remind me of a little bit what we were saying about Victor going into this tournament last year, like working on making his short game better. That had kind of been a weakness for him. I'm getting those vibes from Morikawa, and he's been knocking on the door a lot and has a lot of good results here and at Jack Nicklaus design courses. He won here over Justin Thomas in that playoff I alluded to in 2020 when they held the tournaments at Muirfield Village in back-to-back week. He also won the WGC Workday at Congressional, which is another Jack Nicklaus design. So a lot of things pointing me towards Colin Morikawa this week. That's where I started off my card. I also have got, I can't stay off him. I'm just a sucker for him this year. Benny on 55-1, man. Looked so good at Quail Hollow a couple of weeks ago. Just wasn't going to be able to catch up to Rory McIlroy going absolutely nuclear. But the way that he drives the ball long and accurate, plus the way he's been hitting his long irons, I think sets him up beautifully for this course. And quietly, he has 5 top 25s and 8 career starts here and nearly won in 2018, but lost out to Bryson DeChambeau in a playoff. And he's also now gained strokes putting 3 weeks in a row. So the broomstick is starting to work for him. I've been on him a lot this year, and given the course setup and his track record here, I think I kind of owe it to Benny on to give him one more week. But I also have Shane Lowry, who's been playing really good and just popped at Valhalla, which is another Jack Nicklaus design that features bent grass greens, a long golf course. Saw him pop up there, and he has some good finishes at this track in the past as well. So I nabbed him at 70. And then I've also nabbed Sepp Straka at 80. He quietly has 4 top 10s over his last 5 starts, and also won at PGA National, the Cognizant Classic, and feels like this could potentially be a breakout spot for him. We saw a Ryder Cupper from the Euros breakthrough last week. Sepp Straka, I think, has the game capable to go and do this from the back end, especially with the way that he's been playing. So those were my main guys. I do still have a little bit of room to add either one guy maybe between 30 and 45, or 2 guys from like 55 and beyond. And also, I am a man of my word, Ross. I can't leave this guy out. We gave him a shout out a couple of weeks ago, and I said I like him on driver heavy golf courses because all his best results this year have come on those types of tracks. I got Lee Hodges at 270-1. Maybe I should have taken the each way on him to get like a top 6 spot, because I don't know how realistic it is that he actually wins this bad boy. But he finished T12 at Valhalla a couple of weeks ago, has been in really good form. And as I alluded to, golf courses where you hit the driver a lot and you need to hit it accurately, Lee Hodges does that. So I'm riding the Lee Hodges train this week at 270-1.
Well, good luck with you with Lee Hodges, because when we were mentioning those guys that show withdraw on hole at US Open, Lee Hodges is one of the people that showed like withdraw first round, like hole 6.
That's okay. That's okay. I thought you were about to tell me that you just got a notification that he WD'd from this bad boy, and I was going to be really sad because I gave a Lee Hodges shout out a couple of weeks ago for the Memorial, so that would have broken my heart. Hey, at least he's got the game recognition to know that he's not going to go and waste any more of his time and go and put in the work so he's prepared for Jack's place this week, Ross.
Absolutely. And, you know, we've already, for anyone that has been following us this week, we do have the awesome partnership going this week with Homage. Go get your Memorial gear. I already got my shirt. I got the classic one with Jack on the front. Already got an alert. It is scheduled to be delivered probably Wednesday night. I'm going to have it in time for the Memorial. So let's go.
Definitely make sure to go in and copy your Memorial gear. Go and check out Homage. We just reposted some pictures of their shirts on X. If you want to go and check them out there, you can click on the link there as well to go and purchase those bad boys. We would love all of your support. It helps us out greatly. And speaking of shirts, Ross, again, to everyone out there, go and check out Homage for their awesome Memorial Tournament gear. I completely dropped the ball today because over the weekend, my free Scotty shirt arrived, and I wore that bad boy everywhere on Saturday. I completely forgot to wear it for this week's shirt. So I do apologize for that, but I promise when we come back on this thing next Monday to recap the Memorial and preview the US Open, I will be repping my free Scotty gear.
That's perfect, because I have all my US Open gear is already here and ready to go moving forward. So
looking
it's Pinehurst. They got the sweet logo again, just the classic Pinehurst. Can't wait. But on to the memorial at Jack's Place first. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. We got all next week to prepare.
Very interested to see what winds up being in the attire for the Monday show and also the shows throughout the course of the week, given I know you have a lot of US Open merch that you're ready to display here on the show. But Ross, you hit the nail on the head there. It is an excellent week here at Muirfield Village. The best of the best taking on one another leading into the US Open. We had the longest day in golf on Monday to add fuel to the fire here. It's shaping up to be a great week. Ross, any final thoughts before we kind of close this bad boy out?
Longest day in golf, the longest day for golf on tap, on the Jack's Place, on the Muirfield.
Oh, and it's going to be a very long week next week as well, Ross, because I'm sure we're going to have a bunch of great US Open content coming out. To everyone out there, make sure to stay tuned for that and make sure to follow Golf on Tap on X so you don't miss out on any of that. And also make sure to follow Golf on Tap on either Apple Podcasts or on Spotify, wherever you may be listening to your shows. It's 100% free. We greatly appreciate your support. And again, go and check out Homage for all their great Memorial Tournament gear leading into this week's tournament at Jack's Place. And last but certainly not least, if you are wanting to gamble on the Memorial and you're not already a member over at Bet Rivers, make sure to go and use the promo code ONTAP to get up to a $250 match on your first deposit. To everyone who tuned in, thank you again for your support. It means the world to us. We really appreciate you. Until next week, best of luck, everyone. Or I guess I should say until tomorrow, because I will be having a final bet show coming out with Joey Ricotta. I believe that's going to be going down at around 6 p.m. Central Time tomorrow. So make sure to stay tuned for that. But for everyone out there, we'll see you tomorrow. Crack 'em, lock 'em. Enjoy the rest of your